What if Rosalynn Carter was a politician? So I was going and looking at some old articles, uh, and one of the ones I found was the New York Times talking about this is right, around '84, that Rosalynn Carter was being rumored to run for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate in the 1986 election, where the incumbent was a Republican Senator Mac Mattingly, and he would end up losing that seat anyway. But I was really thinking about this because I said I know that Rosalind wanted President Carter to try running for a non-consecutive second term, like Trump would later do this previous year. And she was very much like still wanting to be involved with electoral politics to some degree. So I don't think it would have been a big stretch of the imagination to see her try to do that herself. Now, of course, if you understand her background as someone that read her autobiography, she grew up at a time where women were not seen as having the same aspirations that men could have, just the homemakers and all the rest of the stuff. But she was someone who, over the course of both her time as First Lady and in the years that would follow that, saw women make advancements, right? By whether it was in the courtrooms, various members of Congress like Margaret Chase Smith, and of course later on you would Hillary and all of her wickedness. But my point is that she is someone who may have grown up at a time where that wasn't really seen as a thing women could do, but by her middle point of living, she had seen multiple women do those very same things. So I kind of want to explore the idea of what would happen if she were someone that did run for office. What if she did try to run for that Senate seat in '86? I think she would have almost certainly been able to get the Democratic nomination. Now, of course, I don't have much to go off of this. Like, I know Carter has always been liked in his home state, right? It was one of the few that sided with him in the 1984 election when Reagan beat him in most states. But putting that aside, the unfortunate part about American politics is that we have what are considered to be popularity contests where it's not the person who necessarily has the best ideas or who genuinely has the most, whether it's experience or just ability to, proven record of being able to do the job correctly. It can oftentimes come down to who do people know the most. And if you're looking at Georgia, just 5 years removed from when the Carters left the White House, if they see Rosalynn Carter on the ballot with whatever random assortment of Democratic politicians are in that state, I have a hard time believing they're not going to pick the first lady, the former first lady that they seemingly loved or liked, over these other people. So it would be a mixture of the celebrity of her husband and herself from when they were in the White House that would, and also the unknown factor of like these other Democrats that would help her to win the nomination. Now, I do think she might have a harder time in the general, but I'm gonna say it's likely that she would be able to win. Um, and if that happens, her as senator is interesting because I think if she was in the Senate, um, I'm gonna say probably for a maximum of like, let's see, if she's entering in '87 and she was born in 1927, she's already about well over 50. I don't see her sitting on that Senate seat for 20, 30, 40 years, but I do see her being there for at least 2 terms. Um, and in that role, she's going to have to deal with Reagan and the Iran-Contra affair, as well as the Bush years, and even the beginnings of Clinton's term as well. And she'll be someone in this, again, alternate reality we're talking about here, which, damn, I kind of almost want to make a novel with this. But if she is the senator from Georgia at this point, you would see someone who is kind of like trying to be above the fray. You know, she's going to make mental health a priority of hers, and that's going to make her and Ted Kennedy get along very well because they both have, you know, he had the like family history of stuff with his sister Rosemary. Just it's going to mend whatever fences there may have been after the 1980 Democratic primary where he challenged her husband. But putting that aside, you're also going to have her critical of Reagan for Iran-Contra, pretty much any conservative economic thing he wants to do. She will instantly become one of the most well-known and most listened to senators, period. In fact, I would honestly say if she ran in 86 and won, the only other people in recent history that I can think of where like they just from one term in the Senate, they were just a celebrity. Everybody knew who they were, you know, whatever, are Robert Kennedy and probably Barack Obama, right? In the sense of like, here's this person who people were excited, like a superstar quality before they even really do anything in office is what I'm getting at here. She would have that instantly. The Democrats might even float the idea of trying to have her run for president, which I don't think I hate saying this, but we've had two women run for president of the United States in the years, and it was at the last 12 years, and I will run and be the nominee of their party, and it has been to no avail. So I'm not going to say that she runs for president and wins, but what I will say is that she would be a very popular person to put in polls and be like, hey, you know, maybe the Democrats, whoever their nominee is, could have her as their running mate. I wouldn't be surprised if former Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton in his 92 campaign says to Senator Carter, hey, you want to run with me against old Bush? And that would be a hell of a like everything coming full circle, right? Where the vice president would be the wife of the candidate that Bush's the president that Bush served under as VP lost to. That would be just a nice little bit of irony. But she would be a very popular senator if she won, one of the most popular in the Senate. She would work with Republicans on things related especially to mental health and just dealings with people, right, in their issues, right. She'd be in favor probably of wage increases and just other labor and progressive ideals that would have, you know, happened. But yeah, I don't think she'd be someone that would serve as senator for the rest of her life. I think it'd probably be at a maximum maybe 3 terms, because I think she would very quickly kind of notice how her role with President Carter has changed. Like, she can't just be with him as much, because you gotta understand the Carters, in a way that, like, we go through the modern presidents, besides the Reagans, the Bushes, and maybe the Nixons. I guess I'll put the Trumans in there, but what I'm getting at is the Carters were one of the most in love couples out of any of the presidential ones. So the idea of Rosalynn being in Washington without her husband while he's like doing stuff with Habitat for Humanity and just on all these different trips around the world, I have a hard time believing. And, you know, I was actually going to say one of the things that would be interesting is that, you know, Republicans, they weren't this dirty, but they might actually try to say, hey, if former President Carter accompanies, you know, Senator Carter, right, in this hypothetical, to foreign states or foreign countries, there's a conflict of interest there, because it's dangerous for this former highest ranking official of the U.S. to be traveling overseas with a senator or the same senator over and over, even if it's his wife. That's the kind of thing that I could see arising in terms of like some possible ethics probe, just, you know, nonsense scandals that they do to drum up conflict. But yeah, she would have been a very interesting senator, and I wish that she had run. I think, like I've said before, I really don't like Hillary at all. She is the only first lady I just cannot stand, and Rosalynn's one of my favorites. So the idea of her being a senator, right? Being someone, even if she wasn't able to, let's say, have or didn't want to have multiple terms, or because you got to also remember that the Republican Revolution in '94 is going to sweep out a lot of Democrats. So she might get, if she wouldn't get caught up in that election, because if she wins in '86, re-elections in '92, so she, it wouldn't be that exact year, but she might get caught up in the Republicans eventually turning the South red, which could sweep her out of office and be like another like loss for the Carters, and play into that, like be a repeat of 1980 but on a small, like on a statewide scale. So what I'm saying is I think Mrs. Carter was a lovely woman. I think the US Senate would have greatly benefited from her being there. And it's another one of those what ifs. I really, there are a few people where if like they don't run for office, I just don't feel like, oh man, we really missed something. But I think it would have been so interesting if she had gone in that direction, because like it certainly would have helped to advance women's rights, along with just giving the U.S. Senate another progressive. Like she was very forward thinking, like her husband, possibly even more. It's sad that we didn't get her in that role, but at least we got her in others, and the U.S. and the world is better off for it.